So if you want to use Slido, scan that now, please. If you want to give feedback about how my talk lulled you to sleep, please feel free to scan the one on the right and give me feedback as well. I'd love to have it. Can everybody hear me okay?
All right.
Cool.
All right.
I can't see anything, so
All right.
that's cool.
Cool. So thank you, Jason, for stealing my spiel. Appreciate that.
Yeah, sorry.
Nah. We have Jason today talking about your intrusion still sucks, and maybe he'll also tell us what to do about it.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully there'll be some of that.
As Jason mentioned, all Q&A will be over Slido, so www.bsidessf.org/Q&A. There will be no word
Or just scan that.
and that. There will be no verbal question and answers, so we'll just be doing through. So with that, Jason,
Thanks
take it
very
away.
much. Appreciate it. Hello, everyone. I am shocked to see this many people here, given that it's happy hour soonish. So maybe 50% of you will leave in 15 minutes. We'll see. So for those of you who don't have the pleasure of knowing me, like I ran a lot and I talk a lot of trash. And I think that's why William's here, just for dank memes and talking trash. But, know your audience. So here we are. So in 2023, I gave a talk titled Lapsus is Winning. And I put forward a thesis. They were all getting our butts kicked by a bunch of neo-Nazi teenagers. And I was like, please tell me I'm wrong. Nobody was able to do that, sadly. They're less winning these days, mostly because they're getting rolled up, but they're still very effective when they choose to be. In 2018, I gave a talk in the IMAX theater where I did not successfully troll anybody with the screen size on macOS supply chain compromise. And we introduced some techniques and some telemetry using Santa, OpenBSM audit framework, and a bunch of other stuff to beat Patrick Wardle to a blog post. That was the actual goal for the talk, was if you do this, you will beat Patrick Wardle to a blog post about Ode macOS malware. Please do that. And it was in the context of CCleaner. In 2017, I gave a talk called Effective Intrusion Detection at the DNA Lounge. And some of the things that are incorporated in this talk are evolutions of all of those talks, plus also one from a former colleague, this guy who goes by Four. His name is John Flynn. He gave a talk in 2012 at Black Hat titled Intrusion Detection Along with Kill Chain. Now you have to put a trademark by that because it's trademarked by Lockheed Martin. And the synopsis was why your detection system sucks and what to do about it. Very similar like Genesis, but this is an evolution of all of those things over time. Cool. So who am I? Who cares? I'm Jason Craig. That's my handle, at least the one I want you to know about. I'm kind of that everywhere. If you want to ping me on Blue Sky or LinkedIn or Gmail, you can use that. Send me malware, please. I'm currently, I've been at this company called Remitly for about 2.5 years. I'm director for detection response. One colleague. Thank you for showing up. We're a Seattle-based company, so there's only 6 of us in the Bay. Anyways, so I lead our detection response org, and Remitly is a consumer-to-consumer international financial transfer platform. So chances are, if you're an immigrant to the U.S., you 100% know of us and 50% use us. If you're native born in the U.S. and you don't send money abroad, you probably haven't. So anyways, we're hiring. Holler at me after if you want to talk about that, except for this guy. So my background's in a lot of things in the last 20-ish years, a little more than 20 years. I've done a lot of roles in security. I focus mostly on intrusion detection, incident response, threat intelligence, offensive security, and I'm a big proponent for Threat Life. And if you don't like the way that sounds, I don't have anything to say for you. That's just the way it is. So some fun facts about me. Firstly, there's a new APT in town. It's English speaking. It's a lot of people that look like me, but some that don't. It's called Goth Typhoon. I'm an unnamed member of this new APT. One day you'll find out about it or not. We'll see. So speaking of ghosts, my actual favorite APT besides Goth Typhoon is one called Wild Neutron. Does anybody know that name? Sad face. Know your lore. Know your lore. So speaking of ghosts, my favorite CVE, I was asked in a job interview what my favorite CVE was by a very serious person. I thought it was hilarious. And I responded to him immediately, CVE 2011-0322. And he was like, that was fast. And I was like, yeah, because I worked that. It sucked. And if you know about this one, you know about it. That's all I'll say. That's my favorite CVE ever. So some shout outs to people. BSidesSF. First of all, thank you, volunteers. Thank you, sponsors. Thank you, speakers. Thank you, attendees. let's not forget, BSidesSF is a for us, by us, nonprofit community information security conference. So let's take a poll. Who was here last year? I can't see anything, so like holler. Cool, cool. Who is here at the DNA Lounge for any year? Okay, who is here at BSides 1? Besides me. Cool. Yeah, at that little co-working space. So yeah, I encourage you to volunteer when you have the opportunity to, because I met a lot of really wonderful people that year volunteering at BSides 1. So anyways, I just encourage you to like volunteer when you can. It's super helpful and you get to know a lot of great people. So also shout out to the Thor Collective. If you don't know about the Thor Collective and you're in the DNR space, you really should. Lauren, Sydney, and a bunch of other hooligans, like they publish some really fantastic research and some thought leadership in like the serious sense, and you should check it out. Also, I won't talk about it a lot in this talk, but Haley Mills gave this great talk called Magnets for Needles and Haystacks. And it's what you think it is. It's about building risk-based alerting as a technique and a concept. And it's super impactful and super effective. And I encourage you to check out her talk if you have not heard of it and you want to find magnets for needles and haystacks. And also like ThornCon fam, they're the best. If you don't know them, ask around. And my colleagues who just, again, I feel bad for every day, especially Adrian. So what problem are we here to talk about? Do you struggle with false positives? Yes, you do. Do you struggle with false negatives? Yes, but you don't know about it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. How do you know? Unknown unknowns. So false negatives are challenging, and false negatives are like an after action KPI you can try to figure out. But if you're not thinking about false negatives and you work in the detection space, you really should think about it harder. Similarly, do you long for meaningful, effective alerts? I do. I think about this every day. It really is tiresome, but I can't stop. So I'm emphasizing effective for a reason. Like, you need to figure out what effective means for your organization. And if you're just thinking about like, oh, I just have alerts, like that's not the way to do things. Do you have too much spare time as a DNR team? Like, so much spare time, right? So few alerts and nothing going on. And I guarantee you, your alerting pipeline broke if you have no alerts. So, which you're probably not monitoring either. So how do we detect and respond to threats seriously? That's the problem. How do we detect and respond to threats quickly and effectively? So this is the crux of DNR. Your job as a DNR practitioner, as a team, as a program, is to find, detect, and contain threats as quickly as possible so that your thing, your incident, your investigation doesn't become a B word. Like, your job is to avoid the B word at all costs. That's breach, in case you didn't catch up there. So how can we scale without like a lot more meat bags? Meat bags are expensive and they're hard to come by. It takes a long time to hire well-qualified engineers. Let's say you go from like 100,000 compute nodes to 1 million compute nodes. Like, you should not be 10xing your team. You should figure out how to scale. You should figure out how to apply engineering principles and better analytics. Cool. So anyways, back to my premise. Your intrusion detection still sucks. I mean, like not yours, because yours is fire, but like ours, not so great, right? So let's talk about some data. So luckily for me, DBIR dropped this week. So NEM trends. Has anybody read it? Awesome. Distinct minority. Not sexy, not like super interesting, hot reading, but like super needful, right? So I sourced this data from this week's 2 reports, munged together. So for a B word, for a breach, the estimated median dwell time for an attacker in the environment was 10 to 15 days. 10 to 15. So that's better than prior years as a KPI, but like, you're still kind of failing at your job of detecting and eradicating threats effectively. So internal detection dwell time. This is when the internal something, whether that's an engineer noticing like a GPU spiking too high, or whether your AWS bill goes up crazy, or like your stuff just stops working, or your DNR team actually catches it finally, 6 to 7 days. Not a good metric. External detection dwell time. This is somebody outside telling you you're wrecked. 20 days. This varies by region and org size, so it's approximately 20 days. And according to DBIR, which sources this differently than mtrends, 50% of breaches are reported by external entities to the breach entity. So that's pretty sad, right? So here's how I think about intrusion detection. Intrusion detection is approximately like almost 20% like known good stuff, right? You're like, oh, that popped. I know that's fine. Ignore that. Well, you got to automate that and implement it in code. 0.1% is like known evil, right? Like you got to go do IR. You got to go figure out lateral movement, attacker objectives, like how to do eradication, coordinated eviction, et cetera, et cetera. And 80% is like, I don't know. Like it's interesting. It's kind of sus. But like, it's not obviously evil. It's not obviously good. So what do we do? So like 80% of our job as detection people is the work phase, like figuring out how to apply work to that 80% corpus. Now, for those of you, I know there's a lot of hot talk about AI. Like I'm kind of an early adopter actually, but like if you're afraid for your job, just go look at this slide on the right. I ran that query Thursday. And if you don't see it, I'm not going to point it out to you because you'll see it eventually. Math, also color. Color. I don't know how much I heated the earth to run this query, but it was sad. And I did a similar one with the other AI platform that we have as an enterprise licensed AI platform. It didn't do any better. So don't worry about your job yet. Maybe 6 months, we'll see. So back to Haley Mills. Haley's talk is great. There's a screen grab from YouTube, obviously, of like how she synthesizes like her way to find needles and haystacks using magnets, right? So you got data becomes observed events, those events become alerts, and then those become hopefully true positives. And that's sort of her thesis for how to apply a magnet to getting getting needles out of haystacks. So we'll talk about that in a little bit more. So I have some base assumptions here. Number one, you have tools. It's not like introductory level, like you need to have a SIM. Here's how you get your EDR logs into a SIM. Like you need to have those already. You need to know them as well. You have to have capabilities to do analytics on this data. What's logs, normalized data in a SIM, whether that's an S3 bucket or like a dumpster, you put your data somewhere, whatever that may be, you have to act on it using analytics. You also need automation. You need some capability or capacity to do automation. You also have a detection as code lifestyle. And if you don't, it's a great lifestyle. I encourage you to try it out. It's been very rewarding for those who have enjoyed it. And if you don't have a detection as code life, this talk is not for you. So sorry. You also, in addition to doing detection as code, you need to have a structured protocol for interacting with everything. You need a protocol for interacting with the data that's in your dumpster and doing analytics. You need a protocol to say, like, here's how we interact with these other exogenous things like Slack, Jira, PagerDuty, like a big red emergency power off button, whatever that may be. So you have a structured protocol for doing those things, and it's standardized and like normative for a team. They know how to use it. You also need a defensible posture. It's not related to DNR, but it kind of is. Your defensible posture should be a couple of things. Like if you're not living the FIDO2 WebAuthn life, like good luck. You're going to have a bad time. You need that as your default, and it has to be enforced. And if you don't have that, you should really get that. It's probably one of the most valuable things you can do as a security organization. Anyways, note, I didn't say passkey. Passkeys, I have feels about enterprise passkeys. Don't do that. Zero trusty thing for device health attestation. This can be Zool. Armin's here. He built it, talked about it at Pinterest. It's a certificate-based IDP. Whatever you got for zero trust, you got to have a thing. It needs certs, it needs to make decisions, it's got to work. So base analytic techniques, I had no idea why I'm running out of time so quickly, but that's all right. Base analytic techniques, you need to build context. You need to decorate your data. You need to enrich your data. You need to do that in a way that's standardized and normalized across all the things you care to do analytics on top of. In addition to that, you need to be able to cross-correlate data sources. So like if your SSO logs are there, like they need to be next to your EDR logs and whatever else kind of logs you have. And if you don't have those near each other, you need to be able to act across them. So you need a way to do cross-correlation for those things. And I think I described like the XDR vertical, but you don't need XDR anything to actually do this as an analytic technique. You just need a way to performantly query things. So in addition to that, you need a concept of computer profiles or machine identities. These can be laptops, they can be EC2, they can be K8s nodes, they can be containers, they can be whatever you want. You need a concept of a computer profile and identity. In addition to that, you need to have a concept of a user profile and identity. I am me. I do things in a way that's regular. I talked about this like almost 10 years ago now. It's a really, really useful technique. And if you have a way to measure computers to themselves over time and to their cohorts over time, And similarly for users, it's a really powerful technique, and you'll find things that you can't find otherwise. So for example, like I have a home IP. It doesn't really change a whole lot. I have a mobile device that changes like once every couple of years, probably. I have a user agent that's probably pretty sticky, especially if you work in an org that enforces Chrome or some other browser as standard, like you are your UA. And that will only change as you upgrade your browser over time, typically. And then, like I said briefly a moment ago, you need to be able to do cohort analysis for all of these things. And then, obviously, you need to be able to pivot on that data. Cool. So I'm going to present this diagram to you and let you digest it for a second. So going back to Haley's flow from data into true positives. You can see I'm obviously like ninja level at flow diagrams. It's a big skill I have. Please endorse me on LinkedIn for it. So events go into your analytic platform, whatever that may be. And then from your analytic platform, something happens on your data, on your logs, and you have an output from that. That output can be an alert, it can be an action, it can be a whole number of things. But you act on your data, you perform queries against it usually, assuming it's all normalized, assuming it's SIM compliant or whatever data model you choose to apply to your data in your data dumpster that you're acting on. You then get an alert out of that, or you get an action. It can be one, it can be both, it can be either. So one step is like, okay, I've done the analytic, there's nothing to worry about. So I just hit that as like, we're good, or it's a false positive that's a known false positive, and I know that because I have a key value store that says, here's the known false positives, drop if it's these things. And then you just end, you're done. If it's not one of those known things, maybe you go enrich your data, build context, decorate it, do cross correlation for your different data sources based on atomic output, and then feed it back into your analytics platform. Do that pivoting I described. And you can like rinse and repeat this cycle until you're done, where it's like, we're good, drop it, we're fine, known case where we can ignore it, or you need to take an action. And that action could be like, you got to go do IR now. And that can be a number of things. That can be like, I want to pull forensic artifacts back from a host using automation. I want to go take a running EC2 instance and park it in a graveyard that has no network access and start running memory analysis tools and disk forensics tools on its disk volumes, stuff like that. And at the end of that, when you're done doing your IR things, you say we're done. Or after further analysis, we know this is a good state. We're going to update our queries and our analytics to say we should tune this out in the future given these certain parameters. All right, so like that's all well and good. I don't think that's really useful, but there's a diagram and you're probably all confused now. So I'm going to walk you through a few examples that will hopefully enlighten some ways to build context and decoration on this data and to do pivoting and cross correlation. So everybody knows like there's a bunch of threat actors out there that do funny things as it relates to corporate ATO. Some are nation states, some are, again, teenagers. But let's say you get a suspicious SSO login. Cool. So the login, the log event says, hey, here's a new login on a new device from a new location and a new IP for this user, for Jason. And it's from a sus IP. So like, what do we do with that? So firstly, what makes it sus? You have to go look at some external data store unless your log tells you natively this is sus by being like a Tor exit node or something else. Unless it's actually stamped in your data and you trust that data from whoever gives you those logs, you need to go enrich that. So what is this IP? Why do I care about it? Is it interesting? Well, it turns out the new IP is a Mulvad VPN exit node. Now, I don't know about y'all, but like, I know some people who are using Mulvad in the last year, and I don't want them touching my stuff. It turns out the IP is located in Germany, and the meatbag, like, I live in San Francisco, so what's going on there? Well, it turns out, was the auth FIDO2 or web authenticated? Now, I asked this question, it's sort of rhetorical if we come back to this is enforced globally. Why do I care about this? I care about it because it's non-phishable authentication. Like, we don't have passwords. We only have hardware tokens or hardware-backed biometrics with like a secure enclave or some trusted execution environment or TPM. So if it's FIDO2, that means that it's probably not an attacker. It's probably me because it's a hardware authenticator I have. and is already registered with the service I'm authenticating to. So let's do some cross correlation. The EDR agent on my device is coming from that same Mulvad IP. So now I know it's Jason C with a YubiKey on his corporate healthy managed laptop, and the EDR agent is on the same IP address. Not so interesting anymore, not so sus anymore. And let's go further, right? So the EDR logs show the network connection to the SSO around the time I get this alert is from Chrome. It's from Chrome on my Mac, and it's derivative of the login TTY, which tells you that it's not malware on my laptop running as me in some other mode remotely. So that's super helpful and useful to know. So the EDR logs also show that I downloaded and installed Mulvad VPN, and it was running at the time I did this. And I downloaded Mulvad like a week ago or whatever. So like a show of voices. Who wants to get paged at 3 a.m. for this? Anybody? No, seriously. Like, this could be existential or it could be fine. Like, does anybody want to say yes? I don't. Like, I don't want to get paged for this ever. And if you just take like your SSO logs, you're going to get paged at 3 a.m. for this every single time. So my position on this, again, it's adaptable to your corporate environment. Like, you should have a risk posture that makes sense for your organization. There's no one rule fits all. But my recommendation would be that nobody should get woken up. The employee that did this should probably get a Slackbot ping to them, should maybe get a JIRA ticket assigned saying, hey, meatbag, did you really know you're violating the corporate policy by running this non-approved VPN service on your corporate laptop? And CC their manager. Like, that's all I'm going to do. And I'm not going to get woken up. And we'll track like remediation to that ticket over time, but like that's on them, and like don't mess around. And the idea is like the DNR team is not there to police unauthorized software. We're there to detect and contain and evict attackers. Cool. So hopefully that made that one use case hopefully made this a little more clear. So let's talk about like another use case where you have a new admin added. So like Jane added Jason as a super admin to a service. Now, first of all, you'll note like this is a dash admin account, and like if you don't have dash admin accounts in your life, you're also missing out. You should definitely try those. They're a really good way to bifurcate your risk because you can apply differential controls, and you shouldn't be reading your email with the same account that you're also administering like your SSO or your cloud control plane. So let's also talk about HR data, right? So my automation platform has to be able to shell out to say, hey, HR platform, tell me something about these people. Who are they? Where do they work? What do they do? What is their presently registered home address, for example? Or you can do that on a cron. You can have a key value story used as an input lookup against whatever query you're running. But your automation platform needs to be able to connect your HR store. And then like, hey, maybe go look at JIRA tickets. Is there a JIRA ticket? Because surely there's a change management ticket for creating a new super admin in your organization. Thank you. And you can pivot off of that. Super useful data. And let's say, take it even a step further. Jane doesn't live the GUI life. She's not about driving a mouse in her job. So she uses infrastructure as code. So Jane uses Terraform to manage our SSO. And she also does that using GitHub because we use GitHub as part of our CI/CD workflows. So I can go contextualize this event to say, hey, is there a YAML file I can go look at? Is it in GitHub? Was it applied through infrastructure as code, or was it applied through ClickOps? And then obviously we can pivot on some other metadata for the event, like the IP addresses for Jane and for Jason, mostly just for Jane because she's the one taking the action in this case. Look at EDR logs for Jane's system and look at the SSO login and like sort of scrutinize that a little bit. So does anybody like want to get woken up for this one? Deafening silence. Cool. So nobody wants to get woken up for this either. I think I might have convinced you. We'll see. So let's talk about a third example. Let's talk about a third example. You have some suspicious AWS findings. So you get a guard duty alert. The guard duty alert is like, hey, Dart service successfully logged into this RDS database, CTEC expiry, blah, 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 in an unusual way. Okay, well, as you probably all know, like guard duty is not super useful unless you take the data and go do something with it. But I'm like, all right, that's not helpful. So let's go look at this further. So you can look at the user, you can look at the session token, do some ARN mapping, like in this case, you can see if you do a little pivoting that JSON-C-admin assume the role Dart service. And JSON-C-admin is actually like the human that did this thing. So like, again, who is he? Like, what would you say it is they do here? And again, like based on who I am, this is suspicious according to guard duty because I'm a manager and I go to meetings. I don't normally log into RDS instances, right? So, but it's an RDS instance. It's assigned to my team. I can see it's in the right repo. Maybe the code I'm working on is in that repo, also sus. But anyways, like there's context here that's relevant to this being a false positive. So again, you look at the IP address in the AWS CloudTrail data. It's the headquarters office IP. Maybe I'm sitting with my office colleagues once a quarter because I work from home, troubleshooting an issue that we're trying to deploy like a new thing for our engine, our automation engine. And that's actually what happened in this case. And if you go even further on EDR data, you'll see it's like AWS CLI. Parent proc is terminal because I like default and I don't customize things. And it's also derivative of my login TTY. So you also may be able to find some GitHub activity related to this or even a Jira ticket if like the team is doing some stuff. So again, like who wants to get woken up? Cool. So if we apply this to my favorite threat actor in the last few years, Lapsus, let's ignore for the sake of like ease that, we don't have WebAuthn or FIDO2, we don't have zero trust, manage healthy devices. But like, let's say your Lapsus stands up a new instance to attack us, and our threat intel team observes that there are some lookalike domains that are registered, and they discover some URLs that are probably going to be used to phish us, but it hasn't started yet. So their tip has a hook to us on DNR, and their tip shovels out these indicators to us so that we can auto-deploy blocks. Super effective. Like, why would you want to get wrecked when you could like proactively block it? So, and then also we're big proponents for canaries. We have them everywhere. And you can put a canary on your SSO login page for most SSOs. It's pretty fantastic. You're not going to catch like, A teams, but you're going to catch this kind of stuff where people lazy web just clone your HTML. So those get triggered too, really useful. And again, coming back to like device health, if you have a managed healthy device and your agents are all running, you stand a fighting chance that it's going to be really, really hard for attackers to get malware on that endpoint, steal your session cookies, and then go import them somewhere else to replay. So like, what about sophisticated malware? Sure. Like A-Team, right? Like some of us have faced those in our career, back to my favorite APT. So this would still catch them. Like, let's assume the attacker has really good malware, like this guy wrote one time that neutered out EDR events from like a protobuf or something. And so your EDR was running in a managed healthy state, but they were just selectively pruning out themselves from their activity. So you couldn't see their activity. So let's say that happened. Cross-correlation and cohort analysis and decoration of these types of events would still catch that. Thank you. Cool. So now let's do response. So like the first use case back in 2011, 2012, when Ford talked about this at Black Hat, was about the responder getting a very good payload of data in the responder package. So if you get paged, if you get an alert, like you want to have a rich amount of information as a responder, and a detection engineering team has the burden of providing them good actionable information. Like the number one thing you should be thinking about when you're preparing a payload for an alert is like, am I teeing up the responder to easily understand what's going on as best I can describe it and take a response action or make a decision, not log into a tool. So that's really helpful. You can network contain hosts like super easily. You can rotate and disable accounts. You can revoke sessions. You can revoke MFA if you really want to get crazy. You can auto forensicate computers. You can do like auto actions on cloud accounts if you're like using infrastructure as service. You can do all kinds of really interesting things there. You can also auto-populate IOCs or indicators of attack. So super, super great there. Again, I talked about the use case where Lapsus stands up new infrastructure and they get auto-blocked. You can also auto-ticket, you can auto-Slackbot, you can PagerDuty, you can email, do whatever you want. So again, how do we do this, right? So you need a SIM-like thing for analytics. You need an automation tooling and platform. The sim-like thing can be whatever you want. I don't have a favorite. You don't need a commercial thing, but it may be your choice. Automation tooling or platform, there are commercial vendors, or you can DIY. Like back in 2017 at Dropbox, we just built our own. It was Python and MySQL. You just need a brain. You need these external and internal sources of enrichment, decoration, and context. I don't know, like you can't really do that all yourself unless you're like maybe Google, I don't know, like, or Facebook. Like you just don't have your own data to feed yourself about external stuff. So you need some other external oracle. That can be like Census, domain tools, URL scan, Spur, whatever. I'm not recommending those to you. I'm just mentioning them. I'm not an endorsement, but they do exist and they're great. You need, again, detection as code and a CI/CD pipeline life. You need a structured protocol, and obviously you need a brain. So why does this work? Context, decoration, enrichment, and cross-correlation takes isolated atomic events and turn those into actionable insights where you can actually do something. You can take an action, or you can say this is a known false positive and move on with your life. So that's all I got. Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it. I'm happy to have any questions.
All right.
My time.
Thank you, Jason. I guess we have time for just one question.
Who will be the one?
I want to go with, does your intrusion suck too? But you can answer that anytime you want.
I mean, I feel like I know who maybe asked that question.
However, regarding FIDO2 and passkeys, what are your thoughts on passkeys, and how do you work with your IDP to get to know that a particular auth was FIDO2 based?
Sure. So firstly, like enterprise passkeys are very stealable. Very, very stealable. They're super easy. I'm a huge advocate for passkeys for consumers. They're easy and they work. I'm not a proponent for passkeys for the enterprise. Most of them can be stolen from, like, let's say you have them in your Google account, in your corporate Google workspace. Let's say none of you would ever do this, but like maybe you backed up your personal iCloud because you allow that on your work laptop. That never happens, right? I've never worked an incident where somebody had to log into their personal iCloud for us. So passkeys are bad, and that's why. They have a different threat model. You don't have to trust me. You can just say, let me apply a threat model to passkeys for the enterprise, and let me apply a model to YubiKeys in FIDO2 and WebAuthn for the enterprise. And the second question is, how do you know what's what? Well, your SSO has config options to enforce authentication policies based on authenticator types. All the major SSOs have this. They all exist. They're all pretty robust and powerful, and they all log. So I have like a daily report. It's not an alert because I'm not stupid. I have a daily report that says like bad MFA things daily. And like over time, that's asymptotic to 0, which is how it should be. Now recall, if you use some SSOs, you can't FIDO2 or WebAuthn everything. So like Tableau for Mac, for instance, like just says, screw you guys, I'm not doing that. Microsoft Office for Mac, if you want to license it through Microsoft 365, you can't do it. I don't know why they don't fix it, because you obviously know what those companies are doing for their own authentication, because it doesn't work.
All right. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, get at me.
Thank you, everyone, folks.